Back to the incense. I missed a week, but I'm back. Last week I was noticeably absent. That's because I have a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm on my way to go speak to the Upper and Lower Sioux community in Granite Falls, Minnesota on Friday for suicide prevention and depression. And there were three basic plots, right? Dietrich, basically, he buys a house and he tells Dominique's mother that he bought a house and that he wants to marry her daughter, and they have a quickie ceremony. And I was just wondering why he didn't have Bishop Jones perform the quickie ceremony if Bishop Jones is going to officiate the bigger wedding ceremony. I don't know why he would have just somebody else do that. That was my only question in regards to that. And why wait until he bought the house if he already was living, like, let's say in an apartment or whatever? Why wait until he bought the house to get married? Like, something about all that, it didn't, I wasn't feeling it. I am happy that they got married. Never had a doubt they were going to get married. I just didn't see the point in, all of this waiting. But episode 4, we find out exactly some of the different details of Dietrich's family, his family, and we understand why he's doing things the way that he's doing things. So, all right, the next plot is Bishop Gibson, and basically his sister has been on drugs for about 30 years, and so he calls an emergency family meeting to his house with his siblings and his mom so that they can go and rescue his sister. Love this part, of course, because for me, I grew up with my dad, who first was an alcoholic, and then my dad became, I guess, what some would consider to be a functioning crack addict. And I remember one occasion that my dad wanted me to fight this crackhead named Wendy. And my dad had me walk all the way from Compton to LA, like far, so far that I had blisters on my feet. I couldn't walk back. I had to call my grandmother so she could come get me from a payphone. Had to stay home the next day from school because my feet had like blisters on them. And my dad, as we were walking, was like stopping to see his friends smoking crack. So I understand what it's like to have a family member that's like, that looks okay, but is a drug addict. And it really touched my heart that, he actually went to go get his sister. I think that sometimes when people get really into the ministry, they tend to like shy away from people. And that's the situation in my own family. Like I pretty much am estranged from everybody in my family. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you really become anointed and you really realize that, you're on fire for God and that's your purpose, some people look at your past and they say, oh, I can't believe, that this is who you are now, as if God can't save you. Anyway. All right. Let's see. And then Bishop McClendon is in this episode. He meets with Farnsworth Bentley, who I guess is an actor. I don't know. I don't watch TV. But they had on the same outfit. I thought that was great. They have great style together. And basically, it was during this time that we find out that there are serious threats that are placed upon the lives of pastors. And you think, if especially a pastor is on television and that pastor is seen in households worldwide, somebody is not going to like the message that the pastor is preaching. And so that person may come all the way from where they are to where the pastor is to try to hurt the pastor. So the pastor or Bishop McClendon is basically asking his staff, how did you let this person get past? And it was, I guess, 2 different people. And then he basically warns his sons about this threat. And his youngest son was like, okay, and can we get some pizza? Guess that means they've had this talk before. Okay, so there's one part where, since I am so late and I did get to watch like other reviews and watch and I guess look at other people's opinions on the internet, I did see that there were some people that were really upset about the fact that Bishop Gibson's sister, like when he gave her a hug and said, "You didn't know we were coming," and she was like, "No," and everybody was like, "Well, we saw that she was mic'd." I think that it's a situation like this, especially in reality TV. They have scenarios that come together, and for that scenario to come together to make it good for TV, some people are not informed, and especially if she's going through, she said she was dope sick, so if she's going through withdrawals of her dope, then it's very likely that she don't know what time it is, what day it is. I mean, she may, you know, sort of be disoriented in the head, and therefore, it may have been hours that passed by that they were supposed to come, didn't come, and then showed up, and she's like, "Oh my God, now you're here." It could have been that she just called the dope dealer, because we saw that she kept calling a dope dealer on the way to Roscoe's, and then the dope dealer showed up at Roscoe's. So she probably wasn't wanting the two to meet up. Maybe she wanted to get high before he came and all types of stuff. But I think that you shouldn't discount the fact that just because she had on a mic that she knew they were coming at that exact time, because she may have been waiting on the dope man, hoping that they didn't come before, and, you know, was kind of, you know, antsy like a crackhead is. I've watched 3 episodes. I've cried all 3 episodes. And I think that, first of all, twice with Pastor Jay and once with Bishop Gibson. I thought that those experiences were real, something that I can identify with, because these are the crowds that I reach, the downtrodden, the people that no one is thinking about. And I really think that you should take the time to ask yourself, why are you really watching this? Are you watching this to look at the flaws of reality TV? Or are you watching this to see what really happens behind the scenes of a pastor? I mean, they have feelings, they're human, they're imperfect as you are. And so you have to ask yourself, what are you really watching this show for? If you're only watching to complain, you're not getting the point of the God of the show. You know what I mean? Like, there's a God part of the show, get that part. Just like when you go to church and sometimes, you know, the pastor is, maybe he'll read like a scripture and then he'll go off on a tangent of his own personal thoughts. You have to be able to distinguish what part is God and what part is his personal thoughts. And if the two line up, that's great. But if you know, according to God's word, that the two don't line up, then make that decision for yourself. But to sit online all day and argue with people, like, you're missing the whole point of the blessings that the show does bring. Is there ratchetness? Yes, because if not, people wouldn't watch. Are you sitting at home watching Joel Osteen every day, or Paula White, or Joyce Meyer, or TD Jakes, or Creflo Dollar? Like, are you sitting in front of the TV watching that every day, every morning? Do you get up and read your Bible every single morning? Do you pray every single night? Do you pray without ceasing? Do you gossip? Just asking, because I see a lot of people judging these pastors as if something is wrong with being human. Man, first of all, it's cold. Second of all, I have on 2 shirts. Yikes. But my kids are still awake, and so if I were in there, this video wouldn't be happening. So I'm having to bear it in order to give the 7 of you guys that want this video. Okay. So it starts off with Bishop Jones and Loretta talking about the 4th of July barbecue that he puts on his house every year. They're going over the guest list, and Loretta's basically saying that she's hesitant to invite Maisha and Lavette because of what happened at the tea party. And I'm like, first of all, it's not your house. How are you going to tell somebody who they can invite, and how can you be hesitant when it's not your house? You guys are not an official couple. And I don't know, just I don't know, I feel like Loretta's kind of feeling herself, you know. But what would a little reality TV be without somebody feeling themselves? Anyway, then it goes to Pastor Cheney and his backyard barbecue, and he basically is telling his family that the demands of the church are so intense right now and that he needs help. And his grandmother basically asks him, what would your grandfather do? And basically, he's carrying on the legacy of his grandparents who actually started this church. And so it's really important for him to get himself together, because if his church is growing, he has to be able to meet that growing demand. So then we get to Bishop Jones and Dietrich. They're at Bishop Jones's house, and basically Bishop Jones is asking Dietrich, when is he going to start preaching again, because he feels that you should preach through your problems. And we find out that when Dominique got pregnant with her daughter, Dietrich's dad made him step down as a pastor, and so minister, whatever you want to call it. And so I believe that has left a sour taste in his mouth. That's why the last episode he went ahead and got married without anybody being there. That's why in the first episode he was so rebellious. It's like you can totally understand why he feels this way. There are so many people that are judgmental, yet he could have been living with her a long time ago in a little apartment, a studio apartment. They've already had sex. Do you think that because they don't live together, they're not having sex still? I just don't understand, is all I'm saying. I don't understand the whole storyline for Dietrich. I feel like they could have been together. People could have been mad. They're already mad. Let them be mad while we live together with the family we've already created. I don't know, man. Oh, man. I'm glad my life is not on public display like this. Now we're at the barbecue, and Bishop Gibson is playing pool with Bishop Jones, and he basically is asking him questions about Loretta. Now all of a sudden, all these, it's crazy to me, dude. Last episode, after the tea party, right? All of these men wanted to, the pastors, bishops, whatever, wanted to know more about Loretta. And now that they're at Noel Jones's house, they getting like, oh, because Bishop Gibson is gangster enough to ask the question. I mean, come on now. Everybody wants to know what's going on with you and Loretta. Then it goes to Loretta in her confessional, and she basically is saying that she saw all the couples hugged up and wished that it were her and Bishop Jones. So then after the barbecue, she sits with Bishop Jones and she talks to him about relationships and says that they should be in one. He says, that I was commitment phobic before, we got together. So, what's all this pressure for? It's clear he doesn't want to be in a relationship. What the reason is, we don't know yet, but it's clear he doesn't want to be in a relationship. Yikes. Then it cuts to Maisha and Pastor Cheney, and basically Maisha is saying that she would be happy to be the executive pastor because she believes that she could do a good job, although he knows that his board may have problems with that because that's the wife and whatever. I wouldn't see the problem if she were qualified and she were able to set boundaries, which it seems that they already have a great relationship. So I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that. It then cuts to Dietrich and Dominique. They're in New Orleans. Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. This is how it goes for me, seriously, you guys. Okay, so now Dietrich and Dominique are in New Orleans, and they're walking and they see a woman, and she basically has one shoe on, one shoe off. She has her feet up with a cross that has John 3:16. Dietrich stops, he talks to her, he prays with her, finds out that she's, probably been delivering the word to people. And, it's always the people that you think are a little crazy out there on the streets that are really servants of the Lord. And it's amazing to me how many people don't realize that some of these people are just angels walking down the street. It amazes me that we believe that people have to be on TV for their word to be important, because as you can see, there are a lot of people on TV that their word don't mean much. I know that my great grandmother is blind, and she has been robbed blind by some of these TV evangelists late night. I'm not gonna even name names, but she's been robbed, honey, and they call her every month to collect money from her, honey, and these people swindle my great grandmother. I tell you, I would not lie to you. Not everybody on TV has a word that's from the Lord. Some people are wolves in sheep's clothing. Trust me and believe me when I tell you that. Anyway, so Dietrich is basically talking about, at the end of the day, preaching really shouldn't be about the money and things like that. People should go back to the basics. People should go back to when an entourage wasn't important. People should go back to when all of that recognition didn't mean anything. And I'm like, that's me all day. Then it cuts to Pastor Cheney, and he's talking to his executive board about having the executive pastor, and he recommends his wife. All of them have a problem with it. That's shade right there. Like, I really wasn't for, you know, them making the comment, like, who cares about nepotism? Who cares about the older people in the church? Like, he needs help. He needs someone that's competent. He needs someone that he can trust. If his wife is available, if she's competent, if she's qualified, why do you guys care what other people think? There's a lot of issues with, like, can we pick the most qualified person? Why does it have to be a man? Why can it not be, like, all of these things are the reason why the world is my church and I don't minister inside of a building. All these rules and stuff, I don't think that's what God intended. I don't. I mean, the old church, the new church, the old people, the new people. I remember I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and then I went to an AME church like around 15, 16, 17. By 17, I was leaving that church and going to a non-denominational church, and I found that in all churches is the same thing, a whole bunch of BS behind the scenes. And so I learned that I can go to church, get the word, and leave. And the ministry that I do is outside of that church building and the name of the church. I do it in the name of God, not the name of this church or that church or AME or CME or Kojic. Or I minister in the name of God. Okay? And if you're doing it so that someone else can notice you, if you are buddy with people in church that you don't really like because you want to get something from the pastor, that's not really a good relationship. At the end of the day, you're still using somebody to get what you can get from that person. I know people that do that all the time. I used to work in church 5 days a week, taught a contagious Christian class, came to Bible study, came to Friday night prayer, came to Saturday, it was like a leadership building thing that the pastor did. I was at church 5 days a week. Okay? And when Hurricane Katrina hit, and they were supposed to be having people to hand out stuff to Hurricane Katrina victims, and I said that my family was in Louisiana, from Louisiana, and I was willing to help, be on that board to help because they needed help, and that's what the pastor announced up in the pulpit. I wasn't picked. They never helped my family. I gave over, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars to that church to help with the build out fund, and the church never built out, and everybody that was there during the time that I was at that church now all go to other churches. Moral of the story, men are human. I give my money to the less fortunate. I went to school to be a minister and a motivational speaker. I do both, and I don't need the accolades nor the ego nor the entourage. Okay? Then it goes back to Noel and Dietrich, and they're basically sitting down and eating, and Dietrich tells Noel that he is married now, and Noel Jones has no problem with it. So please don't create a storyline that has to drag out 4 episodes before you got, like, that's crazy. I know I'm not the only one that feels like that's crazy. You guys have dragged this out. You already have a kid. We know you're having sex still. While they're talking, Dietrich gets on Loretta, and Bishop Jones says that he has a hard time making up his mind. And Dietrich decides that instead of going back to ministry, which is what everybody keeps telling him that he should be doing, that he's going to stick to singing and he's going to focus on that and do that well. I agree, because he probably has problems with his family because of all of this anyway. It doesn't seem, I mean, they're not on the show, so that lets you know that he probably has a problem with his own family, and therefore, where is he going to go minister at? What church is he going to go minister at? Is he gonna come back and you know, there's a story there that we're not hearing. Trust me. Trust me. Then it goes back to Pastor Cheney. He's sitting with his wife and he's talking to his wife about, you know, what the board said. Ultimately, he decides to pick her, which I think was a great deal in the end. Then it cuts to Noel Jones. He's talking with Loretta. He had talked to his therapist earlier, and his therapist said that, you know, maybe he should take a break from Loretta. He agreed. And basically, Loretta is all concerned about her. Like, you know, where is this relationship gonna go? And he's been saying since long ago, they don't have no relationship. And, you know, I really wish that I could, you know, have a little heart-to-heart with Loretta, honey, because, girl, you guys are just business partners, girl. And, you know, if he's having sex with you on the side, he's having sex with you on the side. In real life, with the cameras away, girl, you ain't got no key to that man's house, girl. So you guys aren't really in a relationship. And as nice as you are, it's not great to be demanding on someone that you've known for like 13 years or 16 years or how, I don't even remember how, a long time. And you have nothing more to show for it than this business that you guys have together. It's going to be impossible. We're going to see how that works for him to stay away from her when he's like a silent business partner in her restaurant. Like, how is he supposed to not have contact with her? And it just seems like she's more concerned about her. So I'd be interested to see where that's going to go. That's all that I have for this week. And I hope that you guys are keeping your eye on the prize and not taking too much time to be judgmental towards a reality show that's not really scripted, but loosely based on a real story. And I really hope that you guys are taking time to find the God in all this. If not, shame the hell on you.